Welcome to part 2 of 5 in the Ognot series on LEGO's Hidden Side. In the first installment, we established context through the history of Toys to Life as a product category. We went over the 2012 Toys to Life heyday of figurines with NFC tags, and how Hidden Side instead achieved a Toys to Life product with mobile phones and augmented reality. In this follow-up, we're talking about the physical product itself, with a focus on JB's Ghost Lab, set number 70418-1. This set was released August 1st, 2019, and priced at $19.99 US. It has 174 pieces and is recommended for ages 7 and up. Brickset.com gives this set a rating of 74%, as pulled from their own stats as well as Amazon and the LEGO website. To be clear, this video is not designed to be a guide for those considering purchasing the set for themselves. Instead, this is about how the physical components of a Toys to Life product function in relation to its app gameplay, narrative web series, and how it compares to pre-existing Toys to Life franchises. Okay, first impressions. This is lovely packaging. The front panel is sure to illustrate the series narrative, using a phone to reveal the ghost animations. However, that's one moment where this color system falls short. Here, where it makes this orange and this lime green appear to be the same color. That might be a minor note, but given that these are the very colors required for the AR component to register the image, they're just probably worth some more consideration. The greater background environment is perfectly innocuous and is an honest representation of how much real estate is inside the box, while also exaggerating some perspective for maximum impact. While the set itself is accurately represented, it's a bit disappointing that the main villain on the box design is not featured in the set itself. Sure, he's not depicted as a minifigure, but this inconsistency does no favors in setting your audience's expectations for an introduction to AR gameplay. A very endearing section of the main panel is found here, where Spencer, the ghost dog, is depicted as spinning this dial. When actually assembled, however, this crank doesn't have a stud for Spencer to actually grip on. In terms of literally spinning the crank by hand, the dog shape would have actually been a useful option, and if it's suggested in the main image, perhaps should have been resolved. On this back panel, we get a more photorealistic depiction of the set itself. While 3 areas of this panel reference the app gameplay, it's interesting that none really depict the core gameplay of effectively shooting at ghosts. Instead, these depictions focus on revealing ghosts and then collecting them. Okay, now into building it. This was a totally straightforward build. The brick colors foster an atmosphere of an older building that's had new technology brought into it. Like all the brown tones are original to a high school basement JB is operating out of, and all the gray tones are machinery she's brought in. A clear context achieved passively. Something most LEGO aficionados will tell you is that the stickers are really annoying. Most kids will struggle with those fine motor skills in their constantly growing hands, while most adults will struggle with how tiny the whole operation is. These stickers are no exception. Granted, this channel has the gimmick of wearing a full body green suit, but these are truly small applications. Seeing stickers makes LEGO consumers question why they couldn't have been printed onto the bricks themselves, as was the case with the phone bricks. It's a cost-saving measure and a balancing act. Okay, so let's talk about the minifigures. Let's give it up for the MVP, this ghost dog. How awesome. He's so cute and fun and makes a great addition to any expert's trick-or-treating build. We'll get into the identities of these characters in part 3. So let's focus on them as objects. This hair is fun for any scientist, city punk, or Hogwarts wedding attendee. This industrial work suit is unique enough to give any mechanic a bit of personality, with his bullseye undershirt alluding to a wild side. This main character, Jack Davids, is frankly a bit uninspired. Sure, he's the self-insert character, designed to appeal to as many players as possible and thus with minimal distinguishing features. But unsurprisingly, a character like that isn't memorable. His hat and hood combo is pretty great though. The one main character that doesn't come in the set is Parker, who definitely has super cool hair that comes with a molded beanie. Of note, a mechanic of ghost hunting is that the ghost hunters can be possessed. That's achieved by providing an extra headpiece of a ghost, which then would replace a minifigure's pre-established headpiece. It also includes this haunted hair. The hair deserves recognition for some clever aspects to its design. It mimics the shape qualities of both the scientist and the mechanic characters, making it believably able to replace either. Furthermore, this character with a hat and hood might have hair that looks like that too, we just can't see it. So it's clever in its usability. However, there's an unavoidable disappointment in that it feels like this ghost head isn't extra, but rather that it's missing a ghost body. Part 5 of this video series is dedicated to speculative suggestions and references to where designs might have been improved, but we'll reference some now to have context. In regard to this extra ghost head, for example, it might have been possible to alleviate the sensation of absence by providing an explicit home for the headpiece. Like, the scene could start with the machinery being possessed, then when a minifigure interacts with it, they get possessed. Building that into the design wouldn't have taken that much real estate. Another critique is how rigid the set is. It's one piece, essentially. Similar size sets might include a joint piece in the middle to adjust the perspective as desired. And many other hidden side sets in particular feature an element of revelation, of eyes and gnashing teeth busting through walls. Nothing in the set moves. No opening doors or hidden sides. The most that can be said for movement is this 3D printer contraption, which is clear anyway and thus hides nothing. While this backside has some potential to create a separate vignette, the minifigure has to break through the fourth wall to get there. The solution to this general critique is that this tank device could have had opening doors, perhaps 2 on either side. Then it could have acted as the door between the 2 sides, and offered both the opportunity to swap out a minifigure with its haunted version and walk through from one side to the other. Regarding the previous desire to add some sort of capacity to pivot, maybe that desire is coming from here, where this piece is almost asking to be connected to another, but no other set seems to be designed to connect to the lab. It looks like this piece is just intended as an option to hold the very cool camera piece, but maybe it should have been relocated to neutralize assumptions of connectivity. Let's flip through the rest of the line. There were 32 sets in total. Those came out in 3 waves over 2019 and 2020. When we look at all the sets at once, we're reminded of tabletop Halloween decor. Like, this line could be advertised as, "Wouldn't you love to display this around October?" A surprising proportion of the sets are vehicles. Surprising given that a moving object would theoretically be more difficult to visually capture in augmented reality. Most sets feature the location itself getting haunted, like this juice stand animating with eyes, or how this high school features pop-out claws. Funnily enough, the set we built looks like it might be one of the only ones to lack this quality. Maybe this idea wasn't worked into JB's Ghost Lab because there was a belief that the ghost hunter's home base should be sacred and spared of possession. But that left the significant sensation of no punchline, no big reveal. Our aforementioned proposal to make the set feature a closable tank could resolve this issue. Perhaps the doors that swing open have stickers that invoke a skeletal ribcage? Maybe books on the bookshelf could open up like eyelids, or these tubes disconnect and allow for writhing bludgeons. Let's take a moment to celebrate some virtuosic set design with these revelatory pop-out play features. In the high school set especially, it's pretty magical how tightly packed these surprises are. It's a similar appreciation to the art of origami, or the folded wings of a ladybug. And not only are these qualities technically impressive, but it's what they do for the sets conceptually. Players aren't always going to have access to a smartphone. The battery might be dead, the app might be deleted, or they may be a child who doesn't have a cell phone. So when AR can't whip up the visual of a spectral visage, the theme is still baked into the sets. They can still go into haunted mode. That capacity to augment reality without access to augmented reality distinguishes the pathos of Hidden Side from not only most Legos, but most Toys to Life products. The biggest set in the series is the Mystery Castle, costing a total of $99 when first available in stores. With all the Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and general medieval series, it's a bit surprising how castle-y this castle is, when it might have leaned more into something like Wayne Manor. Its blue set it apart from the reddish castle sets like Skeleton Tower, and its black features distinguish it from Hogwarts. The black works very well when it trails off into these tendrils. They have a perfect balance of being either naturally occurring vines or inky extensions of the main villain's ghostly magic. It's pleasant that these three sections of the castle open up in a way that invokes a classic board game. But perhaps this basis of a board game was employed a bit too ardently, with the top sections shaking out to feel like the single space tiles of Monopoly, ironically making the real estate feel squandered with only one minifigure fitting at a time. The fact that this building lacks a back makes it feel more like a facade, a potential disappointment for those hoping for a full building. Perhaps as a presumably antiquated structure, missing walls could have been contextualized as raised ruins instead of outright absent. The pivoting sections might have had complementary missing walls that, when realigned, effectively completed each other. Granted, the facade style is totally justified, given that the AR gameplay would require virtually every relevant angle to be visible, but the crown jewel of the series might have gone this extra mile. There are about 10 hidden side products that are less sets and more so minifigure booster packs, known as polybags. There's nothing wrong with that, and if anything, is a kindness offered to collectors who want all the characters without having to buy all the sets they came in. But the selection of these independent minifigures might have been a bit more cohesive. This is part of some feedback that will be further explored in parts 3 and 4, but suffice to say the Hidden Side web series and sets focused on the human characters, while the app gameplay focused on collecting the ghosts. Knowing that, perhaps digitally collecting ghosts might have been better physically represented if the ghosts too could be independently acquired. To be clear, possessed versions of mechanics, bikers, and pizza delivery drivers were made available. However, in the world of Hidden Side, a possessed person is still a person and not a ghost, so they don't quite count as a collected ghost nor satisfy this, let's say, limp conceptual connection. It might have been argued that all physical minifigures are physical bodies, and all AR ghost characters are confined to virtual manifestation to underscore this distinction. That principle would allow the app gameplay devs way more flexibility with character design. If a character doesn't have to be physically made, they aren't limited to production resources. But taking advantage of virtual-only characters could still have been done regardless of if some of them were independently accessible. Furthermore, there do seem to be true ghosts available in some sets, so a desire for individual packs still stands. Overall, the color story between all the Hidden Side sets is an absolute triumph. The majority of these vignettes work outward from a basis of gloom, dour environments like graveyards, sewers, and abandoned prisons. This foreboding atmosphere is achieved with dark tones like grays, browns, blacks, and greens. But then, an appropriate sensation of whimsy is peppered in. When the AR gameplay is activated via smartphone camera, the camera uses specific colors to register the set. While the subtlety of that system implementation is mixed, the effort to make those colors feel native to the darkness they inhabit was entirely worthwhile. The saturation of the complementary colors makes them feel that they're glowing with a spectral energy, or the only patch of precious light, or radiating the reflection of a flask of ectoplasm. Spooky intellectual properties can be subject to inappropriate scrutiny by zealots and pearl clutchers, so it was smart that this potential hostility was preempted with color-based levity. The team behind these choices at LEGO deserve all the recognition. But let's give a shout out to Scooby-Doo. Mystery Incorporated was undoubtedly a major influence of Hidden Side, and Scooby's basis in both spooky and groovy aesthetics was taken full advantage of. Great work. Speaking of these color-based dials, they're just so intriguing as the linchpin between the physical and the digital. They are the fully realized goal of Toys to Life, where its physical status directly and nigh simultaneously affects digital gameplay. So when the implementation of this system is deftly executed, it's inspiring. In JB's Ghost Lab, it manifests as a crank that's suggested to control the release of whatever ghost goo is going through that tube. It's delightfully repurposed as the propeller in the wrecked shrimp boat set. This emo archangel allows it to manifest with the thrill of unlocking a secret passage. It comes full circle when these color systems animate in tandem with the spooky pop-out play features. Physical augmentation, dictating virtual augmentation, but also a physical response referencing the virtual gameplay. So truly stunning. That's the crux, and that's why it was so worthwhile for LEGO to take this concept on. They get what AR Toys to Life should aspire to be. They have cemented themselves as thought leaders at our present and humble dawn of reality warping entertainment. Let's take a note from the fisherman and reel it in. We'll wrap it up with simplifying. Here, this is a delightful little play feature. A silly little knob that can spin and does nothing at all. It's wise insight to make sure that this set and the rest still had the basics. Still had the silly little ways characters could interact without everything being about AR all the time. It's still a LEGO. This concludes the review of Hidden Side's JB's Ghost Lab. As part 2 in a 5-part series on Hidden Side, this video hopefully provided a thorough sampling of the physical product itself in order to contextualize Part 3's analysis of the web series that accompanied the product launch. After understanding the storyline of the series, we will finally analyze the augmented reality gameplay in Part 4, before closing with a Part 5 dedicated to making proposals on where adjustments might have been better made and what general takeaways product designers can learn from it. If you like this content, be sure to like this video, which encourages making more videos like it. Follow Ognaut on Instagram and TikTok to see some independent projects and behind the scenes. Subscribe to the Ognaut YouTube channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next.